Script *A0 3-part, ** 5 of 5, modern parallels, triple negation, outro CTA *length, *1 800 words approximately 12 minutes at 150 WPM. The bronze net retracted. The lovers fled. The witnesses dispersed. The bride price was eventually paid. The marriage continued in name only. The lame smith went back to his forge. If you have stayed with us through this hour, you have heard a story that the Greeks, unlike most of the stories about Olympus, treated as a comedy. The cuckolded husband won. The unfaithful wife was embarrassed. The arrogant lover ran across half a continent without his armor. The poets sang it for 2,000 years and the audiences laughed. But the comedy of the trap, like all good comedies, sits on top of something darker. And the something underneath, when you look at it directly, is the part the Greeks understood as truer than the laughter that decorated it. Stay with this. Because the marriage at the bottom of this story was never going to work. Aphrodite did not choose Hephaestus. She was given to him. The Greeks were unusually honest about this. Zeus, the king of the gods, had decided that the goddess of beauty needed to be neutralized, that her body had been the cause of too many fights among the male gods of Olympus, and that the way to defuse her dangerous beauty was to marry her to a husband no one would suspect of being her chosen partner. Hephaestus, the lame smith, was selected for the role precisely because he was unsuitable. The marriage was a piece of divine politics, not a romance. The Greeks asked, by writing this story, the question that arranged marriage cultures throughout history have always had to confront. What happens when the bride does not want the groom? The answer in this story is the answer real arranged marriage cultures have always had to live with. The bride finds her own affections elsewhere. The groom either accepts the situation or, like Hephaestus, builds a bronze net. The trap was clever. The Greeks loved it for its cleverness. But the cleverness did not solve the underlying problem. Aphrodite, after the trap, still did not love Hephaestus. She still loved Ares, or whatever the goddess of love was capable of loving, given that her own divine nature meant she could not be exclusively committed to anyone. The trap had only made the situation public. It had taken what had been a private negotiation between three gods and turned it into a piece of communal humiliation that everyone on Olympus had to remember. This is not a story about a clever husband, not about a foolish wife, not about a cuckold who finally got even. This is a story about a system that arranged marriages between people who did not want each other, and about what those people did when the system trapped them inside a contract that none of them had signed willingly. Now look at your own world. The pattern of arranged marriages, and we mean by this any marriage where economic, political, or family pressure outweighs the actual desire of the people involved, has not disappeared from the modern world. It has changed costume. The bride is no longer auctioned by her father in front of witnesses, but the same logic still operates in the form of green card marriages, of professional unions for tax advantage, of family business marriages where the merger of two estates is the underlying purpose, of religious pressure marriages where the family insists on a partner of the right faith regardless of the affection involved. The form has changed. The dynamic underneath has not. You will find in any culture where arranged or pressured marriage exists the figure of Aphrodite, the wife who fulfills the contract publicly and lives her actual emotional life elsewhere. You will find, in any such culture, the figure of Ares, the lover who gets the affection that the husband does not. And you will find, in any such culture, the figure of Hephaestus, the husband who knows, who pretends not to know, and who eventually, in some moment of public crisis, builds a metaphorical bronze net. The Greek storytellers used this myth as a way of looking, with painful clarity, at a system they themselves participated in. Greek marriage in the 8th century before the Common Era was, almost without exception, arranged. The bride was usually 15. The groom was usually 30. The dowry was the woman's only real form of wealth, and divorce was either impossible or socially catastrophic. Within those constraints, the women of ancient Greece, like the women of every constrained culture, found the spaces where their actual lives could happen. Some of those spaces were affairs. Some were friendships with other women. Some were the religious cults of goddesses like Aphrodite, where wives could imagine versions of themselves that the official marriage did not allow them to be. Hephaestus in this story is the husband who refuses to look the other way. The Greeks treated him with mixed feelings. They admired his cleverness. They sympathized with his humiliation. But they also understood, even when they were laughing at his comedy, that what he had done was a small kind of cruelty. He had embarrassed his wife in front of the entire family. He had not, in the end, gotten what he actually wanted, which was for her to want him. He had only proven that he was capable of punishing her for not wanting him. The Greeks called the regulating force in this story eidos. We mentioned it in part 1. Eidos is the social pressure that makes you behave correctly even when no god is watching. Hephaestus had used eidos as a weapon. He had stripped his wife of it in front of the family. And the Greeks understood, even as they laughed, that eidos once stripped from a person was difficult to give back. Aphrodite, after the trap, would never quite be respectable again. The other gods would never quite forget the bronze net, no matter how often they pretended to. Her eidos asterisk had been spent. You can see this dynamic in the modern world too. The husband who publishes his wife's text messages. The wife who posts photos of her husband's mistress on social media. The leaked emails. The recorded phone calls. The strategic exposure of one party's private life by the other party in order to win a divorce, or a custody battle, or simply the moral high ground in the gossip of the community. Each one is a small bronze net. Each one captures the offender at the cost of stripping them of eidos. Each one preserves the marriage technically while ending it emotionally. Each one teaches the children of the marriage that the way to win a domestic dispute is to expose your partner publicly. The Greeks, when they wrote about Hephaestus and his net, did not quite condemn the smith. He had been wronged. His revenge was clever. The poets gave him the laugh. But you can hear, in the way Homer sets up the scene in the Odyssey, having the bard Demodocus sing it to a polite Phaeacian court that laughs along, that the laughter has an edge. It is the laughter of an audience that knows the joke is partly on them. The civilized society listening to this story is itself full of marriages that could be exposed by a sufficiently clever husband, and the laughter is partly relief that the marriages they themselves are participating in have not been so exposed. The bronze net is in the canopy of every arranged marriage bed. Stay with this, because there is one more piece of this story that the museum plaques never explain, and we want to leave you with it. Hephaestus, after this episode, made the most beautiful objects in Greek mythology. The shield of Achilles with the entire world engraved on it, the armor of Heracles, the chariot of Helios, the necklace of Harmonia, the cursed jewel that he gave to his wife's daughter as a wedding gift, and that brought destruction on every queen who wore it for the next 10 generations. The Greeks did not say it directly, but they implied it. Hephaestus, after the trap, made things instead of trying to receive love. The lame smith had been disappointed in love so completely by a wife who would never want him no matter what bronze nets he built that he turned his energies elsewhere. He poured himself into the forge. He made the most beautiful objects the world had ever seen. He produced, instead of children, an entire material culture. Some readers find that ending sad. Some readers find it heroic. The Greeks left it ambiguous on purpose. What you take from the story may depend on whether you read the bronze net as a triumph or as a confession. The triumph reading says, the cuckold finally won, and good for him. The confession reading says, the man who builds a bronze net to catch his unfaithful wife is admitting, in the very act of building it, that he could not get what he actually wanted from her. The trap was not a substitute for the love he had hoped for. It was a monument to its absence. This was Olympus Uncensored *, Chapter 3, The Naked Trap, Hephaestus, Aphrodite and Ares, the worst love triangle in mythology, the one whose collateral damage included a dynasty of Theban kings and queens who would die screaming for centuries afterward. Next episode goes underground. We are going to follow a girl picking flowers into the underworld, and we are going to ask the question the Greek poets never quite resolved. Was Persephone's marriage to Hades a kidnapping or a romance? The answer, depending on which century of Greek thought you ask, will change. The Eleusinian mysteries kept the truth of this story secret for 2,000 years. The initiates who participated in those rites were sworn under penalty of death never to reveal what was said in the inner sanctum. We will tell you what the modern scholars think the secret was, and we will tell you why the goddess of grain mourned her daughter so deeply that the entire world stopped growing for a year. It is called Persephone's Descent *, and we hope you will be there for it. If this episode was worth the time you have given it, please subscribe. The channel grows because viewers like you stay through long, strange stories about gods and the marriages they ruined. Press the bell. Leave a comment with your reading of Hephaestus. Was he the hero, the villain, or just the most sympathetic figure on Olympus? We read the comments. We learn from them. Until next time, Look up at the night sky and remember that the goddess of love, even now, is married on paper to a god she does not love and cannot leave. The bronze net still hangs in the canopy of the bed she shares with him only on the days the family demands. The lover she actually wants is, even now, off making war on some battlefield somewhere, his armor still bundled in his arms in case he has to run from another bedroom. The pattern is older than the marble. It is older than the names. It survives because the system that produced it survives. Thank you for listening. This was *The Naked Trap. Until next time. Pattern resets used in part 5, ***, 2 triple negation, ***, this is not a story about a clever husband. Not about a foolish wife. Not about a cuckold who finally got even. This is a story about a system that arranged marriages between people who did not want each other. Greek drops in part 5, ***, eidos, the regulating force of public opinion / social shame. Open loop resolution. The bronze net is reframed in the closing as a monument to the absence of love rather than a triumph of revenge. Outro CTA, ***.